Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a brand new Shadow Pokemon in the world of Pokemon Go that was actually a surprise release as well, Shadow Obstagoon. When we got the information for this current Rocket Takeover, they did not list Shadow Obstagoon anywhere. It was not in the list of new Shadow Pokemon. However, now that the event has started, if you battle Cliff, you can get a Shadow Galarian Zigzagoon as a reward. Now, it goes without saying, Counter did get nerfed at the start of the season, but nevertheless, I'm still excited to see what Shadow Obstagoon can do. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and take a look at Shadow Obstagoon in action in some open Great League practice battles. Hopping into the first match, and I'm core broken immediately on the lead as I lead Clodsire into the Shadow Alolan Sandslash. The good news for me is that Clodsire does win the zeros. I am going to farm up to an Earthquake, bait with the Sludge Bomb, and now bring in Galarian Moltres. Sucker Punch is just an incredibly cracked move with the Moltres, so I'm able to apply some very nice damage here. Ancient Power won't quite knock out from this range, so I don't want to throw a move that won't KO, so I will commit the shield and just look for farm. In comes a Shadow Feraligatr. I farm up to the back-to-back Ancient Powers. Unfortunately, I'm just shy of a Brave Bird here, and my opponent is going to fire off their Hydro Cannon instantly to deny my energy by winning the CMP tie. Since they threw instantly, however, I have 2 residual on Clodsire, so I can actually outpace, make a Sludge Bomb, and deal some very nice damage to the Feraligatr. Feraligatr only overfarms by 1, which means I can get the counter down with the Shadow Obstagoon. And I've got to say, Shadow Obstagoon, definitely one of the coolest looking Shadow Pokemon in the entire game. They bring back in the Sandslash. What do they have in back? It's Drifblim! Oh my goodness, the opponent core broken by the Obstagoon. People did not have to respect Obstagoon's coverage anymore because, of course, it did get nerfed. But in this instance, Obstagoon's typing alone is able to secure the win. The opponent going for a bad manner Shadow Ball, understanding that an Icy Wind would not win them the game. Night Slash knocks out the Drifblim and takes the win. We got some spice from the opponent in the next match as I lead Clodsire into Leavanny, but the Quagsire save switch from the opponent is going to be a difficult one. I bring in the Moltres. This is the most obvious Aqua Tail bait ever, but I still fall for it. Oh, that is really unfortunate, because now the Quagsire should actually be able to flip this. I will fire off the Ancient Power bait, fishing for a boost, but the boost will not happen. At this point, they don't need to bait. They baited once, they don't have to bait again. I'm going to farm up as much energy as I possibly can, and at this point, Ancient Power will be able to knock out. I think the play is actually going to be to catch back onto the Clodsire. I'm giving up Switch, but what I'm doing is I am keeping my Moltres very, very healthy. I'm farming up, I wait the turn, they bring in the Marowak, and unfortunately, I still accidentally click the Sludge Bomb. That is a very, very poor play by me, but it's the non-Shadow Marowak. Unfortunately, the Shadow Marowak is still not back yet. If this trainer had the Shadow Marowak, they would be running it because the Shadow is just better. Here, it looks like I actually could have tanked the next Mud Slap and made a Sludge Bomb, so my opponent is forced to throw their energy. And now I can just bring in the Obstagoon. Obstagoon will absorb this damage, and then I can bring in the Galarian Moltres. I'm going to immediately pivot into the Moltres, farm it up, going for the CMP tie, and I forgot that Leavanny actually has a massive attack stat, so Leavanny is going to win CMP. X-Scissor is going to inflict way more damage than I was expecting. I fire off the Ancient Power. Ancient Power is going to set up a very nice farm down for the Moltres, and my opponent just has such little health available. They bring in the Marowak. I get the farm down. In comes the Quagsire. Quagsire is going to be firing off its Aqua Tail that it banked from earlier, but I can just bring in the Obstagoon, counter down, and take the win. Hopping into the next match. Oh my goodness, leading into Shadow Girafarig. We'll have to check the fast move. It is going to be Confusion. I bring in the Moltres. Moltres answered with the Azumarill. And this is the goal of the Moltres safe switch. It is going to be to bait out any potential fairies. Here my opponent throws an Ice Beam. Typically, as the Azumarill, if you can commit to a potential play rough, you should, because it just does a lot more. There, I throw the Brave Bird after waiting the turn to make sure that I see the damage register. Honestly, it's more like waiting a half turn, but by letting the damage register before I Brave Bird, I actually make a second Brave Bird and win the zeros versus Azumarill. In the back, they have Diggersby, and I bring in Obstagoon. This is a matchup where Counter will be doing some pretty significant damage, but the lower pacing from the Obstagoon due to the fact that Counter's energy generation did get nerfed at the start of the season is a bit unfortunate. I will commit the shield, and I end up shielding 2 Fire Punches. That is very rough, but I do see a win con in this matchup. I'm going to go for the Night Slash. Now I'm going to go for the Cross Chop, And then I'm going to look to try and bait back out the Girafarig. They are going to shield. I try for the catch. I'm unsuccessful. They're going to bring in Girafarig, and Girafarig will go for the Psychic Fangs. Psychic Fangs, of course, is going to be hitting for super effective damage and applying a guaranteed debuff. With my energy, I can throw one in the Sludge Bomb so the Confusion won't register because it will knock out, and then I just have to make it to the Earthquake. I get the Earthquake, but I lose charge attack priority here. Diggersby fires off the Scorching Sands. They pick up the knockout, and they make another. Oh my goodness, my opponent's energy management has been pristine, but Shadow Obstagoon, even with Shadow reducing defense, is able to hang on and take the win. Clodsire versus Malamar in the next match. This is a bit of an uncomfortable matchup because, of course, Malamar's energy can be very threatening to the Obstagoon. So I decide to actually bank a bunch of energy and bring in the Moltres just to see what they have. They're going to bring in Dunsparce. This is honestly fine for the Moltres. They're going to go for the Rock Slide, and then, since they threw instantly, I can throw 4, and I'm going to go for a bait. Brave Bird does a lot. People like to respect Brave Birds. So if I bait, and they try and farm down, I can actually make a Brave Bird on 1 HP. This is quickly just turning into the Galarian Moltres show. Again, if you have an ability to get one of these Galar Moltreses, it's so good. It is just unbelievable. Here, my opponent should be 2 rollouts away, and 3 counters, I believe, should be enough to knock out. So I will commit to the farm down, but they barely hang on. Oh my goodness. This Dunsparce. Oh man, it just absolutely destroyed the poor Obstagoon. They bring in the Malamar. This Night Slash is valuable as it will put them in Sludge Bomb range. I am going to look to switch into the Clodsire. They bring in for Alligator. This game might be winnable. It's going to come down to how much energy Malamar has, because 2 Sludge Bombs KO the Feraligatr. I had so much residual energy stored from earlier that I get to 2 moves before they even get to 1, and I pick up the knockout. I'm on the 5 cycle now. If they have double superpower here, they win the game. If not, I win. There's the first superpower, and they don't have a second. Clodsire making the Sludge Bomb, knocking out the Malamar. That game got very scary towards the end, but we're able to take the win. Picking up a terrible lead in the next match, leading Sludge Bomb Claude into the Drifblim. I save switch into Moltres, and I'm met not with a Fairy, but instead with Toxapex. I farm up just shy of 100, I'm going for the bait, and the opponent calls it. That is extremely unfortunate, as them no shielding that probably means that I'm not going to be able to make a play for switch advantage now. Well, actually, I have a ton of energy on the Moltres. Maybe there is a chance here. So I will fire off the Ancient Power, I get the shield, and I'm going for another Ancient Power. So this Moltres just spamming out these charge attacks, opponent shields, and I get the Ancient Power boost. With the boost, honestly, Brine might not KO. They go for the Sludge Wave to try and guarantee the knockout, but since they do that, I can actually farm down and just leave with a Brave Bird loaded. Brave Bird into the Drifblim. This is a boosted Brave Bird. This Drifblim is gone. It is removed from the field of play. In comes Drapion, and I'm going to bring in the Shadow Obstagoon. Unfortunately, my game's stuttering like mad. I even had the phone connected to a phone fan, and it still was not helping the stuttering. The stuttering on Android has been very, very bad today. I'll fire off the Cross Chop. That does quite a lot of damage. You can definitely feel the extra damage from the Obstagoon being Shadow. And here, the good news is I didn't even need Clodsire in this game. So we're going to keep the Clodsire at full health and just farm down with the Moltres. And again, yeah, this is just quickly turning into the Galarian Moltres show. Oh my goodness. Opponent safe switches a Diggersby in the next match, and I get to respond with the Obstagoon. Obstagoon, these counters are chunking through the Diggersby. Diggersby will connect with the Scorching Sands, and that does a lot of damage. And this is when I realized that with the new worse pacing on Obstagoon, because of the fact that it's now 6 to a move instead of 5, Obstagoon loses the zeros versus Diggersby, or at least the Shadow Obstagoon does. So that is not a particularly inspiring showing from the Shadow Obstagoon, to be 100% honest. I do get a Poison Sting farm down, and it's Drifblim in the back, and I'm so sad that I lost switch advantage. This would have been the easiest hard counter game ever, but now I'm going to have to try and play out of my mind, or maybe just get another boost. I will commit the shield. This is going to involve some very careful baits on my part. I'm going to farm up to the back-to-back Ancient Powers, and I will go for the bait. Hoping for the shield. I do get the shield, and I get another boost! Oh my goodness, Moltres. A boosted Ancient Power will not KO from here. A potential lose con could be the opponent calling it, so I am going to full send the Brave Bird. And now I am 1 stage boosted on attack and 2 stages debuffed on defense. In comes Driplim. Unfortunately, the game stutters. I lose a turn and I lose CMP when I should have been able to outpace. But the good news here is with the residual energy on the Clodsire, I'm still going to be able to take this win as I can outpace the Driplim, knock out with the Sludge Bomb, and Toxapex just does not have the damage output to win this game, as Clodsire will make it to the Earthquake and secure that game as a win. All right, we move to the next match, picking up a pretty decent lead. Well, basically the best lead you could ever ask for, leading into Charjabug. Opponent safe switches into Feraligatr, and I'm going to respond with the Moltres. Moltres is going to be met with a potential Ice Beam, so I am going to respect it. It will just be the Hydro. I'm going to throw the Ancient Power before they get the Ice Beam, but my opponent makes an interesting play. They don't go for an Ice Beam. Instead, they just go for the Hydro Cannon. And I'm thinking that this should work out pretty well for me because I thought I could farm down and be outside of 1 Volt Switch range. But as you're going to see, 1 Volt Switch will actually KO here, which means I lose this energy. I bring in Clodsire. In the back is a Poliwrath. Oh my goodness. What is my Obstagoon going to do against a Poliwrath Charjabug core? The old meta returning with an absolute vengeance. My goodness. I'm going to let this go expecting the Icy Wind, but I get it wrong. It's the Scald. That deals devastating damage. And now I'm going to look to try and land some serious damage with an Earthquake. Earthquake gets shielded. Poliwrath, unfortunately, getting the calls right. This is very, very rough. I will end up shielding. It is just going to be the Icy Wind, and I'm going to go for the Earthquake. I want to make sure this Earthquake is going to land. I could potentially switch in the Obstagoon. I think that's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to bank some energy, bring in the Obstagoon. I think I banked that Sludge Bomb for later. And this is going to hurt. The Scald lands. In comes the Charjabug. I get the Night Slash. I am a Shadow Obstagoon. Can Night Slash actually knock out here? Come on, Obstagoon. It barely does not, and I don't have the Sludge Bomb anyway. But even if I did, I would lose charge attack priority there. And unfortunately, despite the unbelievably good lead, misplays cost me the game. Clodsire versus Feraligatr. I'm going to save switch into the Moltres, and they're staying in. This means they don't have a great response to the Moltres save switch, and they full send the Ice Beam. That is even better. This time, I'm going to learn my lesson from last game, and I'm going to go for an Ancient Power before they can potentially go for the Hydro. Because I do always live that Hydro, but it just got me too low last game, and I do want to try and preserve some health in the Moltres. They're going to go for another Ice Beam. They're going to bring out a Drapion, and this is very, very fine. I'm a little surprised that we didn't see this sooner, and they could have preserved that Feraligatr, but either way, I can take an Aqua Tail very comfortably and make the Brave Bird after getting that bait, but they're running Sludge Bomb, but it's still not enough. The Galarian Moltres just going beast mode in these battles, Brave Bird getting them to 1 HP, and now I get a 1 counter head start on the Obstagoon. So let's see, what do they have in back waiting for the Obstagoon? It's going to be some spice. It's the Shadow Haunter opponent. They mentioned after the game that they did end up waiting a turn there to watch for a catch, but I was pretty tired during these battles, so I end up just throwing instantly, and we get an Obstagoon boost as well. Hopping into the final match, leading into a Gastrodon. I'm going to save switch the Moltres. They end up banking a Body Slam for later, and they respond with Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz, not the most comfortable matchup ever for Moltres. Moltres, of course, can hit for super effective damage with Ancient Power, but 2 Ancient Powers plus the Sucker Punches don't KO. Like you see, Mandibuzz is very, very bulky. So I'm realistically going to need to land an Ancient Power plus a Brave Bird. And if a Brave Bird gets shielded, then things could get a little bit uncomfortable. So I will go for the Brave Bird, looking to guarantee the knockout, trying to punish an attempted no shield here, trying to call it. But unfortunately, my opponent is actually going to get the shield call right. I will shield back because I know I have quite a bit of energy. At this point, maybe I have actually done enough Sucker Punches. It's going to be close. I decide to risk it, and it pays off as I just pick up the knockout. If they bring in the Gastrodon, my defense is debuffed, but I do double resist Mud Slap. They're taking no chances. They want to keep the Gastrodon healthy. Gastrodon will go for the Body Slam. That's just going to KO. I'm going to bring in the Obstagoon. In the back is Talonflame. And this is going to be tricky. Talonflame firing off energy. Even if it's a Brave Bird, I just have to let it go. They're running Flame Charge Fly, so they're not running Brave Bird. Here's where Stone Edge would just be game winning for me, but unfortunately, I am running Sludge Bomb. I love Sludge Bomb for a lot of situations, but against Talonflame specifically, it is quite a bit worse. As I get to land that Sludge Bomb, my opponent, if they overfarm, I can get there, but they're not going to let me do that. I'm just going to let this go. Opponent, oh, they Flame Charge, interesting. Had they gone for a fly there, they could have actually outpaced the Obstagoon, but instead they went for fast move damage, and in doing so, their pacing is worse, so now I still have a shield remaining. Back in comes the Gastrodon. Unfortunately, again, the game quite stuttery. I am going to be shielding up. The opponent goes for a Hail Mary Earth Power. I think they probably could have won the game if they just went for the double body slam. But I think they were thinking that the Obstagoon would do a bit more damage than it did, and that a Night Slash would have KO'd. So the Hail Mary Earth Power there does make a little bit of sense, because again, it's a new Shadow Pokemon. People are not going to know how much damage it does or how bulky it is overall. Alright, final thoughts on the Shadow Obstagoon. First off, purely off of design, this has got to be one of the best looking Shadow Pokemon that's ever been released. Like, Obstagoon kind of already had those punk rock vibes, so adding the Shadow Flare to it is just unbelievable aesthetic. However, when it comes to actual gameplay in the meta, I found that it struggled quite a bit. I won a lot of these games, but I would say almost every single win was almost entirely due to just Galarian Moltres being a beast rather than the Shadow Obstagoon putting in substantial work. And we saw the Shadow Obstagoon counter switch into a Diggersby and lose the zeros, which is really, really brutal. And I was not even slow on that counter switch in that game, if I am remembering correctly. That is extremely unfortunate. So unless we do see counter get rebuffs or it get a new fast move in the future, this is probably just one to get and hold on to, because obviously we don't know from season to season what's going to get buffed, what's going to get new fast moves and whatnot. But for now, very cool Pokemon design, but not a particularly meta-relevant one as far as the Open Great League goes. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.